It's Greg Melvin with Helen Painter Group Realtors and Real Estate News Fort Worth. Just want to add another short video here to our series of educational videos. This one's called "Should I Rent or Buy a Home?" It's really depends on the situation you're in. Purchasing a home is inevitably one of the biggest financial discussions you're ever going to have in your life. And the decision as to whether it's the right time to purchase a home depends really on a number of factors. And it's not just your finances. And of course, your finances are a very important part of the deal. But other things you could consider before putting in your offer are your age, the current real estate mortgage and mortgage market, and of course, where you see yourself in the future. So should you rent or purchase a home? Find out by asking yourself the following questions. The first question is, what are your future plans? In short term, renting is always cheaper. There is substantially less cost involved in renting, and normally just comprise of first and last month's rent, a monthly water bill, maybe electric bill as well, and the actual expense of moving. And if you got a friend who's got a pickup truck, it might not cost you anything. So of course that's free is cheap. So if you decide to purchase a home, there are a number of other costs involved. Even once you're able to save the deposit, you will need to save an additional amount to pay some of your closing costs. Other costs can include land transfer taxes, the title company fees, and there's a slew of other closing costs that are involved. And then once you do move in, your monthly bills will probably be more than if you were just renting. And you also have, from then you're responsible for any maintenance, that you have to do with the house, and you can't just call the landlord. Now you're the landlord. So a lot of that stuff you have to consider and take care of that. It's best to calculate how long you plan to stay where you are. If you're planning to stay, let's say you're in Fort Worth and you're like, I'm a Texan, I'm gonna stay in Fort Worth, I am never leaving Texas. Buying a house is probably your best decision. If you only plan to stay a year or two, you're like, Texas is too hot, I am going up somewhere north where it's much cooler. Then renting may be, a current good option for you. There are scenarios, where this may or may not be the case. If you're buying in a large city like Fort Worth or Dallas or in the surrounding areas, there's a really good chance that the market's going to go up substantially in a couple of years' time. And especially here in Texas at this current time, I think last year our equity or our values increased between 4 and 5% last year, and the same for the year before. So you've got 8% here in 2 years. So, that's not bad. And if you plan to be here, 10, 15, 20 years, the value of your house can be substantial. And, but there are scenarios where that may not be the case. If you're, again, if you think you're going to be, moving, if you think your job might take you somewhere else, or if you're just not sure, you might want to change a different field in your job, and so you're not sure, you're just not real secure and stable in where you think you're going to be, for a longer period of time. It may be good just to rent, for the time being. Another thing is, how old are you? Are you, in your 20s, or are you in your 40s or 50s? If you're in your 20s, you may end up relocating due to relationships or, career opportunities, in which, case if you're renting, it gives you more flexibility. You can leave, the end of your lease is in 3 months or whatever, as opposed to having a house that you need to sell. If you're in your 30s and you're, in a longer term relationship, 30s or 40s, and you're more established in your career, this is the job, I love my job, I'm not looking for another job, I'm going to stay here, then purchasing is probably a better option for you. As well, most people in their 20s, spend their 20s saving up money so that when they get to their 30s, that's the point. They can put down a down payment and they can buy your house. Of course, if you're a high earner at a young age, then you can certainly do that quicker. Another question you want to ask yourself is, how much does it really cost? There are a number of fees that come with home ownership, and as we've gone over a couple of them already, it's best to run the numbers for yourself so that you have a better idea of how much it would cost you to purchase versus rent. Fees to purchase, again, includes saving the deposit. And a lot of times you hear people say, well, I need to save 20% for a down payment or 10% for a down payment. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. There are a lot of loans out there, some FHA loans where you can put down 3.25%, less than 5%. There are conventional loans that you can put down 5%. 3%. So you don't necessarily have to save 10 or 20%. A lot of times, if it's taking you too long to save up 20%, you're better off to go ahead and buy something, and then you're during that time when you would have been still trying to save the 20%, you're actually putting money into your own house, and you're putting money into your own equity, and you're building your own equity that, if it was take you 3 years to save 20%, you got 3 years ahead of the game where you're already building equity in that 3-year time, because you didn't have to put down the full 20%. And again, a lot of times when you're buying a new house, if you don't have a lot of furniture, you might have to buy some furniture to put in your house. And, you might have to buy curtains and blinds and things like that. So, there are other expenses that come with, when you're buying a house. And of course, you'll have your carrying costs. When you rent, you normally just pay your landlord once a month, and then you pay your water bill and your electric bill, and there could be some fees or condo fees or something if you live in an area with an HOA. But when you own a home, of course, you got to pay for your mortgage and your property taxes and your maintenance fees and your insurance. And all that's usually rolled into your monthly payment. You make one payment, but you're paying all those other things. And of course, any additional bills like your water bill, your electric bill, your gas bill, your garbage bill, whatever you might have. And then of course, if you are in an HOA or a subdivision with an HOA, then you have usually quarterly or semi-annually HOA payments that may run you another $100 a month or $200 a month. Again, it just depends, and depending on how much that you have saved to put down on the property, and how much the rent is in the city, you'd have to run the numbers yourself and compare. Well, it just makes more sense right now for me to rent in the short term for the next year, maybe 2 years, if you're not sure about your job and stability and all those kinds of things. Another thing you want to ask yourself, another question you want to ask yourself is, are you in high interest debt already? If you have car loans or credit card debt or any other debt that has a high interest rate, it may make more financial sense to pay off those high debt or high interest rate debts, get those paid down, or pay them off completely so you're not paying 18% on your credit card or whatever, and then begin to save up your more money for a home deposit, house, earnest money deposit when you make your purchase. When you're taking out a mortgage when you're already in a substantial amount of debt, again, you may be putting yourself between a rock and a hard place, and I would implore you, don't do that to yourself. Have a little self-control, and you don't have to have that instant gratification. If you're in a situation where it would put you in a tight spot, then just don't do it. Just wait. 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever you need to wait until you can save up some cash reserves. But again, when you've already had, if you say you've had a car loan and you've paid it off, and you've had school loans, you paid them off. Again, the likelihood of getting a mortgage with a good interest rate is better. And especially right now, rates are so low. If you've already established yourself credit-wise, you've had loans, you paid them off, and you've got a good credit score. So your current monthly payments that you have, just make sure to take care of that stuff and pay those faithfully, and so that you're not behind on any of that stuff, because it'll affect your credit score if you do. And then you're getting ready to be able to buy a house. Then the other thing, of course, is we already talked about this briefly, but do you have a deposit down? Because again, a lot of people, the good thing about putting 10% down or putting 20% down is then you're only financing 80% of the house. so it's going to mean your monthly payment is going to be lower. So the more money you can put down, again, that's going to help you with having a lower monthly payment, every month. So of course you're going to add interest and taxes and insurance to that monthly payment. But the more money you can put down, of course, that's going to help you because you're financing less money. But the way the loans are structured today, there's a lot of them out there now that you can only put down 3.5% or 5%. FHA or conventional loans. So you don't have to, if you don't have the money, you don't have to take all the extra months and maybe years just to save up the money. You can go ahead and actually get into your house. But the other thing, if you don't have a 20% to put down, then let's say you're only putting down 5% or 10%, then a lot of times your monthly costs are going to be a little bit higher because you have to pay what's called as PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, and or MPI, depends on the kind of loan, but they're the same thing. It means you have the bank is going to charge you a little insurance policy fee for that balance between whatever amount you didn't put down and your 80%. So if you only put down 5%, then for that other 15%, the bank basically charges you an insurance premium of 30, 40, 50 bucks a month, to cover that other 15%. So in the event that you do default, the insurance policy covers the bank, so they're covered. So you do have, again, if you do put down less than 20%, a lot of times your costs are going to be more just because of the PMI insurance. And then again, just go back, look at your current savings and see how long it would take you, to save a deposit if you wanted to save up to 20%. And as you start to get close to your target goal, which is 5% or 10% or whatever that is, once you're getting close to hitting your target goal, go ahead and start looking at then. You don't want to wait until the very last second. You do want to get an idea of what how much it's going to cost and what things are, the kind of house that you can buy. You want to find out, okay, if I get a 3-bedroom house, 2-bath with 1,500 square feet, okay, it's going to run me about $180,000 or whatever the house may be. So then you at least kind of have an idea in your mind, okay, I've got to have this much down to buy a $180,000 house, and so you can kind of work your way backwards out of it to figure out how much money you need to save. And again, there's always the option. We mentioned it earlier. If you if you feel comfortable about it and your parents are able to help you out, a lot of times they can lend you money to help you with a down payment to get you in your first house. And again, you do have to have a lot. You have to be able to track any money that comes into your account. So as if you do get a chunk of money from your parents, then you have to have a gift letter saying that it's a gift. They're giving you the money to buy the house, and it's not a loan, so you don't have to pay it back. And but again, and that can help you get into a house sooner, maybe than rather later. And again, and the last thing you want to really think about is your job stable. How many years you've been in your job? Do you plan to stay in that field? And these are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about buying. Because if you're happy with your line of work and you plan to stay in Fort Worth or wherever you're at, and you're confident and your job is stable, then purchasing is probably the way you need to go. It's probably the best because you begin to build equity and have your own home where it's you're actually building for your future. And but if you're involved in a job that has seasonal work or is contract work, or you just started your job and you would think about moving maybe to another city if you got a better job offer, then you probably should just hold off purchasing, until you're more decisive and you're able to make a more quality decision about, yes, this is the house I want to live in. This is where I want to live for the rest of my life. My parents are here. My wife's here. My girlfriend's here. However, and again, the relationships and and family, all those things factor into your decision. So you need to kind of make sure you think through the whole process. And again, it may seem like the obvious choice is to build equity and to bank in on future appreciation. But again, purchasing, may not be your best option right now, but it could very well be. If you're just starting out in your career, you have other debts and haven't saved a lot of deposit, and you're not established in your line of work, or you might consider moving, then you might want to consider just renting for a little while until you're in a more stable and confident position about the future. So anyway, that was just, hopefully that, give you a little heads up information, maybe ask yourself a couple questions you haven't asked yourself before. And, should I rent or should I buy? So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us and let us know. We'd be glad to help out, with anything we can. My cell phone number is 402-216-5984. If you want to call me directly, if you have any questions, or maybe you're ready to buy, I'd love to be your agent and help you find a place. And or you got a house you'd like to sell, now is the time to put your house on the market. It is a seller's market. So anyway, give me a call. Let me know. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.